One of the biggest criticisms of Marcus Mariota during his time with the Tennessee Titans was that he couldn't throw the ball deep. Mariota wasn't a big-armed quarterback, and the raw stats backed up the argument that he was a bad deep thrower. But the stats on their own were very misleading of what actually happened. Mariota was actually one of the best deep passers in the NFL. He just never had a supporting cast that would open up deep shot opportunities consistently or take advantage of them when they were created by the quarterback. Schematically, the Titans were run-oriented and wanted the quarterback to execute shot plays. Aggressive play fakes and vertical routes were how they tried to get receivers open deep. That's not the best thing for a touch passer like Mariota. Take this first clip as an example. Mariota drops back in the pocket and establishes himself at the top of his drop. The Titans keep 7 players in pass protection and use an aggressive play fake, but still give up a one-on-one for their tight end against a defensive end in pass protection. This matchup means that Mariota is under immediate pressure at the top of his drop. If you look closely at his feet, he can't actually step into the throw fully when he lets the ball go. He adjusts his upper body and uses a high release point to get the ball out cleanly. Doing that alone is a very impressive act. But Mariota's pass actually then arrives in front of Taywan Taylor. It's a near perfect throw despite it going deep down the center of the field. The defender recovers to dive towards the catch point, but the ball clears him, and Taylor lets it bounce off of his hands. Taylor was disrupted by the presence of the defender and couldn't make a play at a catch point that he should have made. This should have been a completion, even though the quarterback was acquired by design to make a very difficult throw. When you're in that scenario over and over again, and your receivers drop passes more than any other group in the league, you'll be labelled a bad quarterback. This was the story of Mariota in Tennessee. When he was fully healthy, he was phenomenal, but he played in broken offenses. He elevated everything around him before ironically being replaced by Ryan Tannehill, who had played in broken offenses with the Miami Dolphins, and elevated everyone around him there too. Tannehill rebounded after getting a fresh start and sitting for a short period. Now that Mariota has sat on the bench for a couple of years, he's in a position to start again with the Atlanta Falcons. He might just be a short-term bridge quarterback, but his upside is much greater than that. First, let's capture the breadth of his skill set in an individual play.
Bridge quarterbacks don't make this play. Most starting quarterbacks in the NFL can't make this play. This is a prime example of a play that should be dead before it ever has a chance to succeed. It only succeeds here because the quarterback executes at an elite level. There are 2 windows in any given passing play for a quarterback. The first is how long the pass protection lasts for. The second is when a receiver is open enough to be thrown to. That includes quarterbacks who throw with anticipation versus those who don't. At this point of the play, Taylor Lewan is turning as a defender beats and passes inside shoulder. Lewan and his left guard couldn't pick up the stunt, so the first defender through is in the pocket when Mariota hits the top of his drop. None of Mariota's receivers are even close or far enough in their routes to be thrown open. There is no option here except to take a sack. There's definitely not a wide open option or an easy throw to be made. But Mariota's not only a great athlete, he's also incredibly aware of everything around him in the pocket. He took so many sacks in Tennessee because there was often no escape. Playing in that environment for so long wore him down and slowed him down, both mentally and physically. When there's a single point of penetration such as on this play, good quarterbacks can escape. Good quarterbacks can elevate their offensive line and make a play. It's when there's multiple points of penetration that the quarterback can escape. That happened far too often in Tennessee. Mariota baits the defender to him by hunching forward but then spins out at the last second. By waiting until the last second, the defender has no chance to grab him or redirect with him. His eyes immediately snap upfield once he breaks the pocket. He's looking for receivers instead of scrambling straight away. That keeps the defense honest. That means the pressure doesn't shut the play down. Defensive backs still have to be disciplined in their coverage or he'll give up a big play. Defenders are disciplined on this occasion. Nobody is open, but the quarterback resets and then uses his eyes in a pump fake to move number 31 out of the passing lane. The defender covers the running back underneath, Dion Lewis, which uncovers Corey Davis deeper downfield. On one play, Mariota covered for his offensive line failing in pass protection and created a window for his receivers who otherwise weren't open. This is elite quarterback play by definition. Mobile quarterbacks are assumed to be limited pocket passers when they enter the league. That tag stays with them unless they have huge success in the NFL, and huge success is measured by their statistical output rather than what they're actually doing play to play. If you're an athlete, especially a non-white athlete, you'll be accused of not being able to see the field, not being able to throw touch passes, and most of all, not being able to throw with anticipation. Mariota consistently threw with anticipation in Tennessee. He had to there because the only way they could get the ball out of the first window, the window against the pass rush closing on him, and hit the second window, the window of the receiver being open, was if he released the ball before he could see his receiver come open. The selection of plays here don't come across the whole season. They come from a handful of games. But you can see the extreme degree of difficulty he's executing at. This final throw against the Houston Texans was one of the best throws any quarterback made that season. It's a deep out from close to the far hash. Mariota releases the ball as his receiver enters his break at the top of his route. The defender covering that receiver is actually outside of him at that stage, but Mariota can envision where the receiver is going to be and understands how to hit that window at the perfect time. The window is tiny. He has to keep his receiver in bounds, but if he misses inside at all or the ball lacks the required velocity, it's an easy pick six going in the other direction. Quarterbacks who have limited supporting cast and stressful schemes have to walk this fine line on nearly every play. Nothing comes easy, so it's very difficult to be efficient statistically. A surface level look at Mariota overlooks how difficult these throws are and how often he had to make them while playing for the Tennessee Titans. Throwing with anticipation is so important. It's often what separates an Andy Dalton or an Alex Smith from a Matt Ryan or Phillip Rivers. Quarterbacks who can't throw with anticipation hold the ball longer are more susceptible to interceptions and can't throw receivers open. They have to see their target in space before they begin their throwing motion. Mariota actually opens up the playbook as a passer, even though it's often said that his legs open up the playbook because he's a running threat. He was never really a scrambler in Tennessee. His rushing stats came on designed runs more than scrambles. He's also not particularly elusive in open space. He's just really fast in a straight line. His style is set to make the play work through the air and then run if he has to. Here are some examples of Mariota existing in impossible windows as a pocket passer. On the first play, you can see Mariota point out the blitz is coming from the right side. He sets his protection to pick it up, which gives him time in the pocket against the 5-man rush. The Giants actually blow coverage behind this blitz. The Titans have a curl route wide open in the middle of the field. But quarterbacks can't build their processes based on blown coverages. They can't anticipate blown coverages and they can't see them if they're already reacting to the blitz properly. They can anticipate man coverage outside when they recognize the blitz. Mariota knows the ball needs to come out, so he doesn't have time to scan the field for a blown coverage. Instead, he goes to his best man coverage being route at the top of the screen. Mariota releases the ball before Corey Davis has even entered his break. He begins his motion so early that the cornerback outside thinks it's a curl route and looks inside while Davis bends to the outside. Again, the ball is perfectly placed and arrives at the perfect time into a window that was only open for a split second. On this next play, Anthony Firkser isn't even really open. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars and he's in the slot running an out route. It's a similar route just from a closer position. Mariota makes a similar throw to the tight end, and the placement, the timing and the understanding of the route against the coverage are all exemplary to make the play work. Quarterbacks tend to fall into different categories. There are pre-snap read quarterbacks who can only diagnose the defense before the snap. They are the quarterbacks who latch onto their first read and stare them down no matter what the defense does. Andy Dalton is an example of a successful pre-snap read quarterback. Blaine Gabbert is an example of an unsuccessful pre-snap read quarterback. Then there are quarterbacks who can diagnose defenses before the snap, make adjustments, and then react to the defense after the snap. Those are the quarterbacks you see going through full field reads. Tom Brady's skill set is built around that ability. After that, the next layer of pocket passing is throwing with anticipation and finally manipulating defenders. Quarterbacks who understand how to manipulate defenders can create opportunities that simply don't exist for other passers. Patrick Mahomes made the no-look pass famous a couple of years ago, but all the best quarterbacks understand when defenders are watching them and how they can manipulate them. The first thing that happens on this play against the New England Patriots is the wide receiver at the top motions inside the numbers. In response, the Patriots defense drops their safeties into a 2-deep shell. Mariota quickly checks the safeties at the snap. Then he diagnoses that the defense is in zone coverage. As such, he wheels his eyes to the left where he has a high-low concept working against the outside cornerback. Mariota wants to hit the deep corner route but knows the defender will sink beneath it if he's left alone. So he locks his eyes onto the underneath route and uses a pump fake before unleashing a pinpoint throw flat-footed to his receiver just inside the sideline. The outside cornerback isn't there because he was led to the receiver in the flat. The throw alone on this play is outstanding, but the ability to set it up and create the opportunity is another level of technical performance. It's sublime pocket passing. For a long time, the Atlanta Falcons had a fantastic pocket passer in Matt Ryan, who played behind bad offensive lines. He made plays work when they shouldn't have, with his pocket presence and intelligence. Mariota can do the same, and his athleticism will be most valuable making subtle movements within the pocket. There is a clear understanding in the quarterback of when to make a small movement and when to make an aggressive movement against pressure. It got beaten out of him in Tennessee, but the evidence of its existence was consistently there. Falcons fans can be hopeful at least that he can replenish these performances in Atlanta. For this touchdown throw against the Houston Texans, Mariota drops back into a clean pocket and zeroes his eyes in on the deep safety. It's a single high safety with man coverage underneath, so Mariota knows he can create an opening down the right sideline if he successfully holds the safety in the middle of the field with his eyes. As he is manipulating the safety, he is also feeling the rush. The Texans blitzed and 4 defenders were pushed to the quarterback's right, so Mariota slid left to maximise his time and space in the pocket. He's equidistant to all the pass rushers when he's releasing the ball. That's exactly where you want to be in this scenario. Mariota's work against the safety created the opening for Corey Davis. His double move was effective against the cornerback outside, so he's wide open as the ball arrives. It's a perfect throw from Mariota. On this play, we see Mariota feel the edge pressure on the backside. Instead of being trapped after the play fake, he relocates before the defender can penetrate the pocket and then resets outside. Despite sliding right, he's throwing deep left. His pass is perfect once again to lead the receiver away from the safety. He purposely pushed the ball deeper to neutralize the angle of the safety coming across the field. Against the Colts, Mariota sets up early in the play clock. He uses this time to diagnose the defense before the snap, ultimately sliding the line to the right to pick up the blitz on that side of the field. Mariota hits the top of his drop and is immediately pushing back against the grain because of the pressure coming up the middle. He resets and then delivers a strike to Davis for the first down. We see how Mariota climbs the pocket against the Chargers on this play. He neutralizes the edge rush before throwing a perfect touch pass to Taywan Taylor. The receiver dropped the ball as he often did for the Titans. This play against the Eagles is even more impressive as he very purposely cuts back into the pocket despite it closing around him to buy enough time for the throw. He then purposely places the ball high so Davis can catch it and the defender underneath undercutting it cannot. In Marcus Mariota, the Atlanta Falcons are getting a quarterback who delivers the ball strongly against pressure, who is one of the best intermediate and deep passes in the NFL, someone who can throw receivers open by creating wider windows with his eyes and by hitting tight windows, as well as someone who can make spectacular plays. The only question about Mariota as an individual is if he can stay healthy. He missed games in Tennessee and he played hurt too many times to be relied on. The other question is how good will supporting cast be? Because unless Mariota has a very good season, he will be moved into a backup role next year for an incoming rookie or new veteran starter. But considering the available options this offseason, the Falcons couldn't have got a better quarterback. At a time when teams are giving away draft picks for players who are proven to be limited, Carson Wentz for example, the Falcons got a potential long-term starter for nothing. And at 28 years of age, he could start for another 6 seasons without actually starting his decline.